Have you been experiencing an uneasy feeling about the modern church? Do you sense that there is something very wrong within the body of believers? Have you found yourself questioning the things that you've been taught about Scripture? Are you bothered by a nagging sense that much of what you were taught is lacking or worse, wrong? Do you feel lost? Are you looking for more? If you've been experiencing any of these feelings, you are among friends here. We felt the same way at one time. We can relate to the prophet Jeremiah when he wrote, "Our fathers have inherited nothing but lies, worthless things in which there is no profit." This is Jeremiah 16:19. We, too, felt lost until we started tearing down the teachings and traditions of man and started to study Scripture for ourselves. And in its original, ancient Near East, Torah-observant Hebrew context. When we started to study Scripture in its ancient context, our faith started to change. We came alive, and we found ourselves drawn back to the ancient paths. This is what Yahweh says: stand by the ways and seek and ask for ancient paths where the good way is, and walk in it. Then you will find a resting place for your souls. But they said, we will not walk in it. This is Jeremiah 6:16. The Scriptures call this ancient path the way. This show is dedicated to serving the kingdom of Yahweh by sharing what we have learned about the way with others. We are aware that there are many other voices out there making similar claims. We just feel that many of those voices are seeking something other than to serve the kingdom, and that they do nothing but cause more confusion as a result. We make no claim to special revelation or anointing. We just try to avoid adding to the confusion by focusing on the Father, His Son, and their kingdom. We are lay people, but we are not without the necessary skills to do proper research. We do believe that Torah still applies to the believer, but we are not part of the Hebrew Roots movement. In fact, most Hebrew Roots groups would reject us. This is because we recognize that Torah is more than just the law of Moses. We are under the new covenant, and with a change in the covenant, there was a change in the way Torah applies to the believers. Search the Scriptures and pray for the wisdom necessary to better understand how the covenant has changed and how these changes govern the way Torah is to be applied to the life of the believer. Then, we try to live, as best we can in our modern world, according to these changes described and lived out by the Messiah and his apostles. And in everything we do, we strive to serve the Father, His Son, and their kingdom by serving other believers and helping to make stronger disciples as we go. Good morning. Welcome to We Who Are Lost. Today is Wednesday, July 1st, 2026. I am your host, Joe Vakanovic. We are continuing in our study of the book of Jeremiah. We will be in chapter 47. I am reading from the NASB 1995 translation. Today is one of those days where I start showing how the prophetic language works differently than what most of us probably have been taught. Let me see. That's not going to work too well today. Let's try this. Hopefully y'all be able to read that on the screens. If not, I'll be reading it so you can follow along. So by the way, I was being overly ambitious. We'll have to finish this study up next week. So today, chapter 47, verse 1, that which came as the word of Yahweh to Jeremiah the prophet concerning the Philistines before Pharaoh conquered Gaza. So he's prophesying to the Philistines before they're destroyed. Thus saith Yahweh, behold, waters are going to rise from the north and become an overflowing torrent and an overflow the land and all its fullness. All right, now right here, this is prophetic language. It says waters are going to rise from the north. What's that mean? Waters are people. Tumultuous, chaotic, lawless people. In this case, it's going to be like a destroying army is going to rise from the north. Well, folks, Pharaoh is west-southwest of Gaza and the Philistines. So how is it Pharaoh comes from the north? This is a from the north or from the northland. It's a figure of speech in the Hebrew culture that means from the place where evil comes. The north, or the far off north, is where evil is thought to reside. Why does this have ramifications for us? Well, if you're reading about Rosh and Magog and you say, hey, look, in the far off north, Moscow is directly north of Israel, so it's got to mean Russia. No. The north can mean anything. It could mean geographically, but if you're dealing with a prophet, it probably means from the land from whence evil comes. So behold, lawless people or a tumultuous group of people are going to come from the place where evil comes from and become an overflowing torrent. In other words, they're going to flow over the nation and destroy it. Just like the dragon opens its mouth and spews out water to overtake and flood out the woman in the book of Revelation. That's where this imagery comes from. So behold, waters are going to rise from the north and become an overflowing torrent and overflow the land in all its fullness. The city and those who live in it and the men will cry out, and every inhabitant of the land will wail. So the people will be scared and lamenting. Now look, here's the parallel passage that tells me that I've got the right interpretation. Because of the noise of the galloping hoofs of the stallions, the tumult of his chariots, and the rumbling of his wheels. So there's the military. That's the waters. That's the descriptive, the parallel line that describes what the waters actually are. It gives the definition. If you'll pay attention, the prophets usually do this for you. And then it says, the fathers have not turned back for their children because of the limpness of their hands. It's a way of saying that they have not turned back to rescue their children because they're cowards. Limpness of their hands. They have no strength. They're not going to be men. They're going to act like, they're going to be cowards. Fearful. Verse 4, on account of the day that is coming to destroy all the Philistines, to cut off from Tyre and Sidon every ally that is left. For Yahweh is going to destroy the Philistines, the remnant of the coastland of Caphtor. So the prophet says that Yahweh is going to do this, but Pharaoh is the vehicle by which he does it. And he gives credit for an earthly thing to Yahweh. Verse 5, baldness has come upon Gaza. Ashkelon has been ruined. O remnant of their valley, how long will you gash yourself? Okay, baldness has come upon Gaza. Shaving your head is thought to be a sign of shame, dishonor. And it usually was a lot of times what they would do in these days and back in the ancient Near East cultures is if you conquered an enemy, you'd shave their head. That carried on all the way into the 1940s. I don't know if you've ever watched Band of Brothers, but there's a scene in the Band of Brothers where they liberate the Eindhoven and in Belgium, and the people shave the heads of the women who had cohorted with the Nazis. It's a sign of shame. So that cultural practice has followed us for years. So it says, how long will you gash yourself? This is another sign or practice from when you're lamenting or you're in distress. You would cut yourself in those cultures. It says, sword of Yahweh, how long will you not be quiet? Withdraw into your sheath, be at rest and stay still. So there's a lament here. Hey, Yahweh, please quit killing people. Then it says, how can it be quiet, be the sword, when Yahweh has given it an order against Ashkelon and against the seacoast? There he has assigned it. So in other words, Yahweh will continue to wage war on these people until they are destroyed. Now we have another oracle. This is concerning Moab. So I went and I looked. Moab. This is going to be connected to the first son of Lot from his daughters, the incestuous offspring of his daughters and Lot. And I just looked this up on Bible Hub. Moab is a significant geographical and cultural entity in the biblical narrative, often mentioned in the context of Israel's history. The Moabites, descendants of Lot through his elder daughter, were closely related to the Israelites, but frequently found themselves in conflict with them. And we are told that Moab will be destroyed. That's in the prophecies. Let me see if I can do this real quick. Just for the purpose of what we're doing here today, I'll draw this up just a little bit more for you. Edom is down here because you're going to see Edom mentioned in these prophecies. So Edom is down in this region. And then you have Moab right here. That's the area we're prophesying against now. You're going to see a prophesy against Ammon, which is going to be in a few minutes. And then up here are the Phoenicians. Folks, these are all the peoples that surround Israel and Judah and who were in cohorts in one way, shape, or form or another with Babylon to destroy Yahweh's kingdoms. And we've already read in the prophet Jeremiah where Yahweh said that, yeah, I'm going to use these people to punish my people. I'm going to use these Gentiles to punish my people for their harlotry. But then I'm going to turn around and destroy those nations in return. So sometimes people read these prophecies in Jeremiah and they think that these prophecies are for the end times or times yet to come. Be careful with things like this, because here we're seeing in Jeremiah's time that these prophecies are for a near fulfillment to them. There might be a future fulfillment, and there's good reason to believe that. We'll get to that in a moment. But this is going to happen earlier on. It's going to happen in the time of Jeremiah or shortly thereafter. And that's what this is all about, is that Yahweh is going to punish these nations just like he promised. So concerning Moab, thus says Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, woe to Nebo, for it has been destroyed. Kiriathaim has been put to shame. It has been captured. The lofty strongholds have been put to shame and shattered. There is praise for Moab no longer. In Heshbon, they have devised calamity against her. Come and let us cut her off from being a nation. This is cut off means to be destroyed. You can be killed. It could mean death, or in this case, death from being a nation. Moab's no longer going to be a nation. It's an idiom. Cut off means to be destroyed, killed, whatever, or exiled. It says, you too, madmen, will be silenced. The sword will follow after you. The sound of an outcry from Horonaim and devastation and great destruction. Moab is broken. Her little ones have sounded out a cry of distress. These are all places and peoples related to Moab and in and around that area of the ancient Near East. It says, for the ascent of Lahith, they will ascend with continual weeping. For at the descent of Horonaim, they have heard the anguish cry of destruction. Ascent probably means Lahith comes against them, and Horonaim might be a king that was, or leader that, or city that was destroyed. It says, flee, save your lives, that you may be like juniper in the wilderness. For because of your trust in your own achievements and treasures, even you yourself will be captured. So Moab is being punished for its pride and attacking Yahweh's people. Now, this right here is very interesting. And Chemosh will go off into exile together with his priests and his princes. Chemosh, folks, this is divine council language. Well, how do I know that? I looked up Chemosh. Chemosh is a deity worshipped by the Moabites. Chemosh is their devil. I mean, is their god, but it's a false god. So this is a case of Jeremiah is saying that Chemosh is going to go off into exile. He's going to be banished from the land of Moab, according with his priests, his false priests, and his princes. Princes are more than likely here the same thing as princes in the book of Daniel. These are probably spiritual beings that are aligned with Chemosh. Could be human princes, possibly. Could be both. It says, a destroyer will come to every city so that no city will escape. The valley also will be ruined and the plateau will be destroyed. As Yahweh has said, give wings to Moab, for she will flee away, and her cities will become a desolation without inhabitants in them. Cursed be the one who does the Yahweh's work negligently, and cursed be the one who restrains his sword from blood. In other words, cursed be the ones sent to destroy Moab that do not do their job with due diligence. It's not necessarily Yahweh's work, does not necessarily mean believers or people aligned with Yahweh. Moab has been at ease since his youth. He has also been undisturbed like wine on its dregs, and he has not been emptied from vessel to vessel, nor has he gone into exile. Therefore, he retains his flavor, and his aroma has not changed. In other words, Moab has not been chastised or punished for its wrongdoings ever. Remember earlier on, especially if you're studying with us in Genesis, Yahweh said, leave Moab alone. His days, his iniquity is not full yet. Well, I'll get to him later. Well, that's what this is talking about. His days are now come to an end. Yahweh is going to deal with him now. It says, therefore, behold, the days are coming, declares Yahweh, when I will send to him those who tip vessels, and they will tip him over, and they will empty his vessels and shatter his jars. Folks, empty his vessels and shatter his jars. You remember how Jeremiah came before the king and threw a pot down and shattered it? This is part of Hebrew philosophy. It's a physical way of knowing, a physical way of understanding in connection with the abstract warning. The prophecy is abstract. It's spiritual. Shattering the jar is physical. Together, they give the proper understanding of what's being portrayed, what's being conveyed or communicated. You need them both together. It says Moab will be ashamed of Chemosh. So they're going to be ashamed of their God. In other words, they're going to realize that Yahweh is El Elyon, God Most High, and that they've been worshiping a false god. So Moab will be ashamed of Chemosh, as the house of Israel was ashamed of Bethel, their confidence. So where Israel was ashamed of the true God, and Charlie, this is kind of interesting here. This one right here, Bethel or Bethel. I don't know if that's the city, the region, or the Stone of Destiny.
Yeah, that's
in the context of this prophecy, I don't know why they would be ashamed of the city or the region of Bethel, but I could see them being ashamed of the house of Yahweh, the temple.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, that would be a breadcrumb for Alan in his arguing that the Stone of Destiny stayed with Israel wherever they went, or was set up at one point in the northern kingdom at Bethel. And notice it says their confidence.
Right. Yeah.
Well, there's no confidence anywhere in the city or the region. It was in the house of Yahweh, which is what that means. So, folks, if you've been studying with us in our other areas, this is one of those breadcrumbs that could possibly refer to Jacob's pillow stone.
Yeah, interesting.
So it's a possibility. We don't know. So the scripture continues. It says, how can you say we are mighty warriors and men of valiant for battle? Moab has been destroyed, and men have gone up to his cities. His choicest young men have also gone down to the slaughter, declares the king, whose name is Yahweh of hosts. So in other words, how can Moab say that they'll be able to withstand my attack? The disaster of Moab will soon come, and his calamity has swiftly hastened. Now notice this. Right here, his disaster has not yet come, but up here it's talked about as though it already has happened. So Yahweh declares it's as good as done. It says, mourn for him, all you who live around him, even all you who know his name. Now it's personalizing Moab. So as though the nation or the people are a person. Say, how has the mighty scepter been broken, a staff of splendor? Come down from your glory and sit on the parched ground, O daughter dwelling in Dibon, for the disaster of Moab has come up against you. He has ruined your strongholds. Stand by the road and keep watch, O inhabitor of Aror. Ask him who flees and her who escapes, and say, what has happened? Moab has been put to shame, for it has been shattered. Wail and cry out, declare by the Arnon that Moab has been destroyed. So it hasn't happened yet, but it's being spoken of, prophesied of, as though it already has happened. Verse 21, judgment has also come upon the plain, upon Holon, Jahazar, and against Mephath, against Dibon, Nebo, and Beth Diblathaim, against Kiriathaim, and Beth Gamul, and Beth Meon, and against Kirioth and Bozar, and all the cities of the land of Moab, far and near. So it's going to be the whole area. The horn of Moab has been cut off and his arm broken. Now, do you remember earlier where it said having a weak hand or a weak arm? Your arm, your outstretched arm, your mighty arm, that is a Hebraic way of saying my strength, strength of will, strength of military, strength of your ability to get things done in the world. So the horn of Moab being cut off, when it's cut off, it's been removed. So Moab is no longer a nation, and its strength as a nation has been broken. It's like a nation defeated. That's figures of speech there, folks. And then it says, the horn of Moab has been cut off and his arm broken, declares Yahweh. Make him drunk, for he has become arrogant toward the Lord, toward Yahweh. So Moab will wallow in his vomit, and he also will become a laughing stock. Make him drunk, foolish. Make him as though a drunk man, not able to think clearly or to save himself. Now, was not Israel a laughing stock to you? And this is Yahweh talking to Moab. Or was he caught among thieves? Israel is now personified as a person. For each time you speak about him, you shake your head in scorn. Well, that was prophecy, remember? Israel was going to be a laughing stock, and all the people were going to shake their head and hiss and everything. So now Yahweh's saying, because you did what I prophesied you would do, now you're going to get punished. Verse 28, leave the cities and dwell among the crags, O inhabitants of Moab, and be like a dove that nests beyond the mouth of the chasm. Among the crags, live in the caves and everything. We have heard of the pride of Moab. He is very proud of his haughtiness, his pride, his arrogance, and his self-exaltation. I know his fury, declares Yahweh, but it is futile. His idle boasts have accomplished nothing. Therefore, I will wail for Moab. Even for all Moab will I cry out. I will moan for the men of Kir-Heres more than the weeping of Jazar. I will weep for you, O vine of Simba. Your tendrils stretch out across the sea. They reached to the sea of Jazer. Upon your summer fruits and your grape harvest, the destroyer has fallen. This would be the fruit of the land and the bounty of your harvests. That's going to be destroyed. So gladness and joy are taken away from the fruitful field, even from the land of Moab. And I have made the wine to cease from the winepress. No one will tread them with shouting. The shouting will not be shouts of joy. So this is all destruction of Moab. From the outcry of Heshbon, even to Eliel, however, even to Jahaz, they have raised their voice. From Zoar even to Horonaim and to Eglath and Shalishia, for even the waters of Nimrim will be desolate. I will make an end of Moab, declares Yahweh, the one who offers sacrifice on the high place and the one who burns incense to the gods. Moab, right here, this is telling us that Moab is idolatrous, worships false gods. Now, why is that a problem? Moab is descendant of righteous Lot. Are we to assume that Lot's incestuous offspring weren't at least told about Yahweh? Because remember, Uncle Abram or Abraham, which would, and Isaac and Jacob, and these people would have known about Yahweh and they turned away from him. So they're getting their comeuppance. It took a long time. Yahweh gave them time to fulfill their iniquity, but it's coming about now, both because they refuse to worship Yahweh and because in their arrogance and their pride, thinking that they were wealthy and self-made, they turned against Yahweh's people. Verse 36, therefore my heart wails for Moab like flutes. My hearts also wail like flutes for the men of Kir-Heresh. Therefore they have lost the abundance it produced. So this is the whole land of Moab. Verse 37, for every head is bald and every beard is cut short. Again, symbols of shame. There are gashes on all the hands and sackcloth on their loins. This is symbol of mourning and lamenting the calamity that's fallen upon them. On all the housetops of Moabs and in the streets. Housetop is like their front porch in their culture. And in the streets. So it's all the communal gatherings and all the private gatherings on top of the houses. There is lamentation everywhere. For I have broken Moab like an undesirable vessel. There's that physical. This is an abstract teaching of breaking Moab, destroying Moab, being connected to a physical image of breaking a vessel. And it says, declares Yahweh. So Yahweh has declared this. How shattered it is, Moab. How they have wailed. How Moab has turned his back. He is ashamed. So Moab will become a laughingstock and an object of terror to all around him. So he's going to be a lesson for the other nations. And they're going to fear Yahweh and fear what happened to Moab. For thus says Yahweh, behold, one will fly swiftly like an eagle and spread out his wings against Moab. So it's going to come quickly. There's going to be somebody, a nation or a king or a group of people, a military leader says, behold, one will fly swiftly like an eagle. So it's going to come quickly. Spread out his wings. That's his military and his might and his power spread out, and he'll come against Moab. Kirioth has been captured, and the strongholds have been seized. So the hearts of the mighty men of Moab in that day will be like the heart of a woman in labor. Moab will be destroyed from being a people because he has become arrogant toward Yahweh. Terror, pit, and snare are coming upon you, O inhabitant of Moab, declares Yahweh. So this is going to be very similar to the prophecies against the house of Judah and Jerusalem, where it was told them, if you try to flee, the sword and the famine will catch up to you and you'll still die. In other words, you can run, but you'll just die tired. Here we go, verse 44. The one who flees from the terror will fall into the pit, so you'll get trapped. The one who climbs out of the pit will be caught in the snare. For I shall bring upon her, even upon Moab, the year of their punishment, declares Yahweh. Now, that's not necessarily a literal year. It's a figure of speech. Could be a year, could be a week, could be a day, could be several years, but it'll be the period of their punishment. In the shadow of Heshbon, the fugitive stands without strength. In other words, he's got nothing left to stand for. He's been defeated. For a fire has gone forth from Heshbon and a flame from the midst of Sihon, and it has devoured the forehead of Moab and the scalps of the riotous revelers. The forehead, the mind, the thinking, the will. Woe to you, Moab, the people of Chemosh have perished, the people of that false god. For your sons have been taken away captive and your daughters into captivity. Very similar to what happened to the northern and southern kingdoms right there, right? Now pay attention. This is why I say this is a near prophecy, but it could apply to the future as well, because yet I will restore the fortunes of Moab in the latter days, declares Yahweh. Thus far, the judgment on Moab. In the latter days, in the future. Everybody's always wondered, what did the latter days mean? Sometime in the future, from the point that this is being said. I used to think it was a specific time period. I no longer do, because the way the prophets use this and the way things happen, the latter days probably is a way of saying in times to come, in times yet to come, future. Charlie, would you have a problem with that interpretation? Because I know that this is something you've wrestled with before. And you and I have discussed this subject. So do you see why I've come to the point of thinking latter days just means future from the point that the prophet is talking?
In this instance, I would say yes. I mean, sometimes it can have other connotations, but I wouldn't necessarily apply that to this here, because this is a specific prophecy to Moab. Yep. So, it would be just the latter days in association with this destruction of Moab. So, yeah, I'd be in your camp on that.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people think latter days is connected to the end times, and I believe it is.
It can be, but not necessarily always.
Yeah. So for me, I've gotten now, the first thing I think about latter days is future. Then I start looking to see if there's another context to it.
Right.
All right. So we're going to do one more chapter after this today. There's a few more notes in the next chapter because it's kind of long too, Jeremiah 49. And then after that, we'll probably call it a day, and then we'll wrap up 50, 51, 52, 53 next week. Let me see. We might get 50 in today. I'll look at it during the break. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a 3-minute break, and we'll come back and we'll continue into chapter 49, which is a lengthy chapter. See you in 3 minutes. Yeah, I looked ahead. Chapter 50, 51, and 52 of Jeremiah will finish next week. Chapter 50 is a big one, and I don't want to try to tackle that today, especially on the fly. So we will just finish up with chapter 49 today. Now it says, concerning the sons of Ammon, thus says Yahweh. So real quick, I went and looked this up. This is Moab and then the sons of Ammon. If you'll remember, these are going to be descended from Ben Ami, the son born to Lot's younger daughter. So we've already looked and seen their geographical location. These are frequent adversaries to Israel. We see that in Judges and during the time of King Saul and other areas. So, and this is just on the Bible Hub right here, theological significance and historical reliability of the scriptures, practical. There's just more connections with the people of Ammon. They're part of the biblical story. It says, thus says Yahweh, does Israel have no sons? Oh, folks, right here. This is important. Or has he no heirs? All right. So what is Yahweh asking? Who's Israel? First of all, this is Jeremiah. Israel's the northern kingdom. Does the northern kingdom have no people? Yes, it's got lots of people. He has sons. Has he no heirs? Yes, he has Ephraim. So this is a Yahweh saying, hey, does Israel have no people left? Do there are no heirs to inherit my promises? This is then, why then has Malcolm taken possession of Gad and his people settled in its cities? So Malcolm has taken possession of something that does not belong to him. Therefore, behold, the days are coming, declares Yahweh, that I will cause a trumpet blast of war to be heard against Rabbah, the sons of Ammon, and it will become a desolate heap, and her towns will be set on fire, because she took something that belonged to Yahweh and to Yahweh's people. So Yahweh is going to punish them. And it says, then Israel will take possession of his possessors, says Yahweh. I do not remember this happening in the stories of ancient Israel before the Messiah came. So this might be a future prophecy. And we have to remember where Ammon is. Right here. Kingdom of Ammon, the East Bank. When has Yahweh's people ever possessed that region? Well, they did. Especially if you're following our study on J.H. Allen's book on the scepter and the birthright. If he's correct, and the crown is currently sitting with England, there was a time when this entire area just about that you see here was under the control of the crown of England. That's where it gets the name Palestine, when it was called the Palestinian Protectorate before it was divided into Israel and Palestine. And yeah, folks, you have to understand that modern day Israel did not take the Palestinians' lands. Jordan did. The nation of Jordan is the UN's created region that was originally called Palestine. So Jordan is Palestine in the political sense. But right here, this prophecy might very well be a far in the future prophecy. We don't know for sure, but I'm not aware of, and I could be ignorant, but I'm not aware of a time when the northern kingdom possessed the region of Ammon. And it says, wail, O Heshbon, for Ai has been destroyed. Cry out, O daughters of Rabbah. Gird yourselves with sackcloth and lament, and rush back and forth inside the walls, for Malcolm will go into exile, together with his priests and his princesses, or princes, rather. This is more than likely more false gods. I did not bother to look it up, but I bet you it is. How boastful you are about the valleys. Your valley is flowing away, O backsliding daughter, who trusts in her treasures, saying, who will come against me? So we have Ammon, who is also, descendant of Lot, righteous Lot, whatever, should have known about Yahweh, backsliding. Okay, this is the same type of language Yahweh used against Moab. And that's because Ammon is related people. And they were related to the holy people of Israel coming out of, in the Exodus and all. And there's still enemies of Yahweh's folks. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's a God, because in Acts 7:43 it says, "But you shall carry the tabernacle of Malcolm and the star of the God of Rephan." So yeah.
All right. So we see here, and now, Charlie, I bet you, because this is almost the exact same phrase that was used in the previous chapter, I bet you we're in some sort of a chiasm here.
Yeah, could very well be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the parallelism of the language in
Yes.
the laments and the accusations, we very well could be in a chiasm right now, and you'd have to
Right.
graft
And
it out to find it.
and this also would cause you to reflect upon the Exodus and those kind of things, because
Yes.
all the strikes against Egypt were strikes against their gods and such. So this is just another way of saying that he's not just striking the people; he's going against these spiritual entities here. So this is a spiritual battle that we are seeing the physical earth
Bingo.
shadows of.
Yes. Exactly. What happened in what we would think of as history, secular history, is the earth shadow of this spiritual battle. And this is one of the reasons that, at least on this show, we hold to a Deuteronomy 32 worldview, the divine council worldview, because that's what's here. That's what's going on right here. For all we knew, Malcolm is the name of one of the divine council angels that turned bad and rebellious.
Yeah, most likely it is. Yeah.
Yeah. For all we know. So, all right, we'll continue. Thanks, Charlie. It says, how boastful you are about the valleys. Your valley is flowing away, a backsliding daughter who trusts in her treasures, saying, who will come against me? Behold, I'm going to bring terror upon you, declares Yahweh, Elohim of hosts, from all directions around you. And each of you will be driven out headlong, with no one to gather the fugitives together. But afterward, I will restore the fortunes of the sons of Ammon, declares Yahweh. So there's that. Ammon and Moab are going to be restored as people groups, not necessarily nations, but as people groups in the future. Prophecy against Edom. Okay, remember these are the folks that are descendant of Esau, and they're down here, Edom. Okay, and they have a tumultuous history with Yahweh's people, Israel. Thus says Yahweh of hosts, is there no longer any wisdom in Teman? Has good counsel been lost to the prudent? Has their wisdom decayed? Flee away, turn back, dwell in the depths, O inhabitants of Dedan, for I will bring the disaster of Esau upon him, and at that time I punish him. If grape gatherers came to you, would they not leave gleanings? If thieves came by night, they would destroy only until they had enough. So if the grape gatherers came, wouldn't they leave a little bit left for other people to eat? And if the thief came, he would only take enough and then he would leave, take it till he was satisfied. He says, but I have stripped Esau bare. I have uncovered his hiding places so that he will not be able to conceal himself. Yahweh is going to take more. He's not going to leave anything to glean. He's going to consume until he takes everything. His offspring has been destroyed along with his relatives and his neighbors. He is no more. Esau is going to be cut off. Leave your orphans behind. I will keep them alive, and let your widows trust in me. Makes a new people of a sense. For thus says Yahweh, behold, those who were not sentenced to drink the cup will certainly drink it. Those who were not sentenced to drink the cup. Drink the cup means to suffer the fate of. It's a cultural saying. It's a figure of speech. Drinking the cup means this is my destiny. This is my duty. This is what's been laid out before me. And if you are not sentenced to drink the cup, you're going to end up drinking it anyhow. So in other words, the calamity has overcome even those who have not been prophesied against or who were not guilty. Okay, as you'll see in a minute here. And it says, are you the one who will be completely acquitted? You're not. Right here. This is going to be kind of explanatory to here. You're not sentenced to drink the cup. In other words, you weren't guilty, but you're going to drink it anyhow. And it says, are you the one who will be completely acquitted, found innocent? Remember when Charlie tells you a lot of the language in your Bible is law language, legal language? You are smack in one of those conversations. Yahweh is pleading his case before the court. This is divine counsel language. You are in divine counsel worldview situation right now. We are in the court of Yahweh, and he's pleading his case against these people and their spiritual leaders. Charlie, do you see that?
All right. Yeah. This is definitely definitely legal language here.
Yep. So it says, you will not be acquitted, but you will certainly drink it. In other words, you're going to be punished. You're going to be convicted, even though you might not have been charged. For I have sworn by myself, declares Yahweh, that Basra will become an object of horror, a reproach, a ruin, and a curse, and all its cities will become perpetual ruins. I have heard a message from Yahweh, and an envoy is set among the nations, saying, gather yourselves together and come against her, and rise up for battle. This right here, this section here, this could pretend to far in the future as well, especially with the set amongst the nations. Gather yourselves together, come against her for battle. I don't know. I'm just saying that I know enough about how the prophets speak to know that could be a near and far prophecy or a very far prophecy. It says, for behold, I have made you small among the nations, despised among men. As for the terror of you, the arrogance of your heart has deceived you. Oh, you who live in the cleft of the rock. There's that living in the rock again. Men hide themselves in caves. It's a way of, it's when you feel powerless and hopeless and helpless, you hide in the caves, fear and terror, who occupy the height of the hill. Judah does this. When Jerusalem is invaded, they run to Medina, I think it is. No, not Medina, excuse me. There's a stronghold north of Jerusalem somewhere there in the mountains that they run to. And it's not Medina. I think it begins with an M. I just can't remember it, but it's a well-known. They held up there for a year and a half after Jerusalem was sacked. It says, "Who occupy the height of the hills? Though you make your nest as high as eagles, I will bring you down from there," declares Yahweh. So even though you're hiding in the caves up in the mountains, he's going to bring you down. Edom will become an object of horror. Everyone who passes by it will be horrified and will hiss at all its wounds. The destruction is going to be so bad, people are going to be, oh my God, don't want that to happen to us. Like the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah with its neighbors, says Yahweh. No one will live there, nor will a son of man reside in it. Son of man. That's a Hebraic saying for a human being, which is why that was Yeshua's favorite term for himself, son of man, because he was telling you, I am fully human, even though I'm also fully Elohim. This is verse 19. Behold, one will come up like a lion from the thicket of the Jordan against a perennial watered pasture. So there's going to be a person, a leader, king, whatever. There's going to be an enemy against Moab. For in an instant I will make him run away from it, and whoever is chosen I shall appoint over it. For who is like me? Yahweh is saying, who's like me? And who will summon me into the court? Who tells me I must appear before the court? And who then is the shepherd who can stand against me? This is the king telling you there's nobody that can demand me show up before him in the court. There's Charlie's legal language. There's the Heiser's Deuteronomy 32 divine counsel world. It's right there. It's right there. We are in a legal case right here in this prophecy. Therefore, hear the plan of Yahweh, which he has planned against Edom, and his purposes, which he has purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely they will drag them off, even the little ones of the flock, meaning the children. Surely he will make their pasture desolate because of them, their lands. The earth has quaked in the noise of at the noise of their downfall. Now, in the earth quaking, it could be an earthquake, the physical manifestation. But it could also be that all the people it shook the world, the political world. The people are scared over what happened to Edom. It'd be like the world shook in 1940 when Germany tackled France in just a couple of weeks. The earth was shaken. The world politically was shaken by how fast France, a world power, or it thought to be, fell to Germany at that time. That's the idea here. There's an abstract shaking, and it could very well have been connected to an earthquake. It says, there is an outcry. The noise of it has been heard at the Red Sea. Behold, he will mount up and swoop like an eagle and spread out his wings against Bozrah. And the hearts of the mighty men of Edom in that day will be like the heart of a woman in labor. We've already seen this before, like a woman in labor. This language is repetitive. Now, concerning Damascus, Hamath and Arpad are put to shame, for they have heard bad news. They are disheartened. There is anxiety by the sea. It cannot be calmed. Damascus has become helpless. She has turned away to flee. A panic has gripped her. Distress and pangs have taken hold of her, like a woman in childbirth. There's again, woman in childbirth. How the city of praise has not been deserted, the town of my joy. Therefore, her young men will fall in her streets, and all the men of war will be silenced in that day, declares Yahweh of hosts. I will set fire to the wall of Damascus, and it will devour the fortified towers of Ben-Hadad. Prophecy against Kedar Hazor, concerning Kedar and the kingdoms of Hazor, which Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, defeated. We need to do something here real quick. There we go. It says, concerning Kedar and the kings of Hazor, which Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, defeated, thus says Yahweh. I went and looked this up too. Kedar and Hazor. This is going to be important to us. This is the area of Kedar. Now, there's a city up in this region called Hazor, between Jerusalem and Damascus. That's not the Hazor we're talking about here. This is Arabia. This is the area where the Ishmaelites are dwelling. So this is the general area that is being prophesied against here. And Bible Hub tells me about it, the geographical context and everything. I just bring that up so you can go find it yourself later if you want. You just go to your search engine, you type in, significance Kedar Hazor. You'll see the Bible Hub listing. It says, concerning Kedar and kingdoms of Hazor, which Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, defeated, thus says Yahweh, arise, go up to Kedar and devastate the men of the east. The men of the east, from where they're at, that's going to be the Chaldeans, the Babylonians. They will take away their tents and their flocks. They will carry off for themselves their tents, curtains, all their goods, and their camels. And they will call out to one another, terror on every side. Run away, flee, dwell in the depths, O inhabitants of Hazar, declares Yahweh. For Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, has formed a plan against you and devised a scheme against you. Okay, so I got that one wrong. Nebuchadnezzar is going to attack them. So they are the people of the east. Okay, east from Jerusalem. So the Ishmaelites are going to get attacked as well. Arise, go up against a nation which is at ease, which lives securely, declares Yahweh. It has no gates or bars. They dwell alone. Okay, right here. Ishmael's descendants, they dwell at ease because they no gates, no bar. They're nomads. Remember the prophecy about Ishmael? His people are going to be wanderers. They're not going to be farmers or tied to the land. That's how they're living here. They don't have walled cities. So there are no gates or no bars to protect people or anything like that. And they dwell alone. They dwell in little family tribal units that are nomadic, wandering throughout the land. It says their camels will become plunder and their many cattle for booty. I will scatter to all the winds those who cut the corners of their hair. This is a reference to paganism right here. Well, let's do. You cut the corners of your hair. What this means is you round the hair. You make like a bowl haircut, like monks used to do. That's a connection to pagan worship. I've looked into that. I know what that is now. That's not letting the little locks grow by the sides of your ears. That's not what that meant. That's a misunderstanding, a more modern misunderstanding of this commandment. It also tells you not to shave the very top of your head. Also something that the monks would do. Both of those are syncretic practices. That's paganism being brought into the church from the Catholic monks. It says, I will bring their disaster from every side, declares Yahweh. Hazor will become a haunt of jackals, and desolation forever. No one will live there, nor will the Son of Man reside in it. Prophecy against Elam. All right, I looked up Elam. Elam's role in the Bible. This is Bible Hub. You can look into this again too. But y'all already know or should know from previous studies. Here's Elam, which is today going to be southeast parts of Iraq and parts of Iran. So Elam here is going to be in the Bible prophecies. It is now front and center in Jeremiah's prophecy here. Verse 34. That which came as the word of Yahweh to Jeremiah the prophet concerning Elam at the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah. So notice how Jeremiah is not arranged chronological order. It says, thus says Yahweh of hosts, behold, I am going to break the bow of Elam, their military might, the finest of their might. I will bring upon Elam the four winds from the four ends of heaven. All right. In the prophetic language, the four winds, this is political turmoil, political strife. It's not so much connected to physical calamities like earthquakes and tornadoes and floods, et cetera, et cetera. It's connected more toward the politics of the world. And when it says from the four ends of heaven, it means from all directions. It says, I will bring upon Elam the four winds from the four ends of heaven, and I will scatter them to all these winds, and there will be no nation. So Elam's going to be broken and scattered, to which the outcasts of Elam will not go. There'll be no nation where they don't go. So it could be a lot like the northern kingdom. They're going to be seated throughout the world. So I will shatter Elam before their enemies and before those who seek their lives, and I will bring calamity upon them, even my fierce anger, declares Yahweh. And I will send out the sword after them until I have consumed them. Then I will set my throne in Elam and destroy out of it king and princes, declares Yahweh. But I will come about in the last days. Now, this is different than the latter days, but it will come about in the last days that I will restore the fortunes of Elam, declares Yahweh. Charlie, what would you make of that one?
Now
Come about
that
in the last
one
day that I will
is
restore the fortunes
interesting.
of
Yes.
Elam.
Yes. And this is interesting, going through these various people groups that Yahweh is going to lash out against, if you will. It's interesting that even these, we would look at them as wicked and idolatrous people. He's saving a remnant of these people.
Oh, yeah. The remnant
so-
of Elam is scattered throughout the world.
So that shows that it shows Yahweh's chesed, his love for everyone, first of all, but it also shows that this talks to, in my mind, the grafting in of what we would call Gentiles today, that those that were outside of the people of God, if you will, where they still have access to the kingdom of Yahweh if they turn and follow Yahweh. And we've got like the story of Ruth and stuff like that, that push this point forcefully forward. But
Elam was settled by the first son of Shem, Shem's firstborn.
Yeah.
So they come from what we think of as a more faithful line from Noah.
Well, right. I mean,
but that doesn't mean
if you trace everyone back, eventually everybody gets back to Adam. So we're all tied to that,
Yeah, but I'm talking about the restart after the flood.
Right. Yeah.
Where you're talking about at that point, the prophetic lineages of Ham, Shem, and Japheth are important in the prophetic sense.
Right. Yeah.
But you also have to remember you're now dealing with Iran. And up until about World War II, Iran was, it was Muslim, but it wasn't a region that caused Yahweh's people a whole lot of trouble. Now, World War II, they were aligned with the Nazis, and they fought for Hitler. And then after that, they were aligned with the United States until the Shah took the Shah fell and the Ayatollahs took over.
Right.
So this Elam could be a problem here in the end times, in the last days. I'm pretty sure the last days is another way of saying the end times.
Yes.
Because it's not latter days. So it's another one to be aware of, but I don't know what to make of it. You'd have to put a lot of pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah, not quite sure what.
So, and also, Ray Masada. Yes, that was the M word, not Medina. Masada, I was trying to remember. Thank you for that, Ray. I appreciate that. Y'all know me and names. I knew it had an M in it. So
there was something interesting in there as you were going along too, where it was talking about the eagle and its nest and stuff, and it's interesting because a funny man with a weird mustache and stuff, one of his headquarters was called the Eagle's Nest, and it was up in the mountains of Bavaria.
Yeah.
So just interesting, quinky dink, nothing to see there.
But now remember, these images can be both good and bad depending on how they're being used.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, Israel will be mounted up on eagle's wings and fly with Yahweh. He'll hold them up on eagles. Yeah. So the image, you be careful with that. Context.
Right. Context in that case is huge.
Yeah, and don't ever try to pin a prophecy down to a specific event. Say, yeah, this could be one. There can be many earth shadows of a spiritual prophecy. Just know that it rhymes real hard. That's good enough.
Right.
When we start thinking that we've got these prophecies nailed pat, that's when we start creating troubles, because a lot of times they have near and far. everybody's waiting for the Antichrist to show up and set up some sort of thing in the third temple or what. Folks, Epiphanes or whatever the heck his name was, he already did that. That prophecy's fulfilled. So unless that's a near and far, the Tim LaHaye Left Behind group of people are waiting on something that's already done. Antiochus Epiphanes, he did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So be careful. I'm not saying it won't happen. I don't believe in a third temple being physically constructed because I think the temple is now the body of believers. That's me. But you be careful with these prophecies. That's all I'm saying. I'm just be careful with Yahweh's prophetic word. That's it. Know that these things rhyme real loud sometimes, both in the past and in the future. They have a tendency of repeating themselves, just like, history repeats itself. That's because people have not changed and we do not learn. We're stiff-necked. Yahweh tells us, remember, remember, remember. So we can look back on the history of his people, say, oh, that didn't go well when they did that. Let's not do that. We never do it. We never do that, looking back and say, let's not do that mistake. And say, it went well for them when they did this. Let's choose that path instead of the one that doesn't go well. We don't do that. We refuse to do that, even though he tells us, remember, all the time. We will not remember. And therefore, a lot of these prophecies repeat, especially for the different tribal groups that are now in the world. You're going to tend to follow the prophetic nature of your forefathers. Anything else, Charlie?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good here. So
Nothing on the board?
No, I don't see anything on the board. So I think we're good.
Okay. Well, folks, we thank you for joining us. We hope that you're enjoying our study in Jeremiah. It goes hand in hand with our Friday study on the book, J.H. Allen's book, The Scepter and the Birthright. We could have and should have done Hosea and Ezekiel at the same time too, but Jeremiah is the most important one because that's where the two houses are clearly split and explained why. And that's important. So tomorrow we're going to have one last show on Islam, and it's going to be more of an off-the-cuff thing. And then Friday, we're still in J.H. Allen's book, The Scepter and the Birthright. Monday, I don't know. I might just go off on the Supreme Court. Oh my gosh, little bunny Fufu needs to scoop up some justices and smack them on their heads. But we'll get into that another time. If you like what we're doing, hit the thumbs up buttons, share the show. If you haven't already done so make sure you subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to both channels too.
Yeah, because there might be a special show Friday.
Yeah, there will be a special show Friday. I'm already outlining it. After the book study, we'll have a break and I'll roll right into the next show. And it's going to be on the Founding Fathers, specifically with the role of the Judeo-Christian ethic, Bible, culture in the creation of this nation. And it will rhyme real hard with the two houses and the scepter and the birthright. So it's the road to Concord, folks. I'll be explaining the road to Concord and how it started with the Exodus. That's when it really got going. It probably started with Abraham, but anyhow. So that's what's in store for the rest of the week and early next week. So until we see each other again, hopefully tomorrow. If not, y'all stay safe. Take care. We love you. Bye-bye.